BMW released the G80 M3 around 4 years ago, and when the car first came out, it received a ton of hate. Pretty much every M3 fan that was waiting for the release of the new M3 after the F80 was really upset about how the front end looked. And aside from the entire car's design not getting any love at all, the grills were the #1 thing that everyone absolutely hated. Now that the G8X chassis has been out for almost 4 years, and now that some time has passed, we've seen a ton of them get modded, grills changed, new front splitters, diffusers, exhaust, coilovers, and we pretty much got to see what they look like fully modded out. In today's video, we're just gonna be walking around Max's car, talking about the mods, and basically going full circle talking about how much people have grown to like these cars. Before I start going into the technicalities about the G8X platform, I really do want to talk about Max's car and do a quick walk around because this is one of the most tastefully modded G80s. So obviously you guys have seen this car on our channel before millions of times when we did the Valve Master exhaust, the Project Gamma front mount intakes, and a bunch of other little mods. But I'm still going to go ahead and cover some of the specs of this car for those of you new to the channel that have not seen this car before. So this car is an individual velvet blue on Fiona red interior carbon bucket car. It is a 6-speed manual, and it is a 2023, so you have the beautiful iDrive 8. And I remember when we first picked this car up at the Performance Center at South Carolina, it looked absolutely nothing like this. This car does have about 12 to 11,000 miles on it. So Max has pretty much had this car for a little bit over a year, and you can already tell this car has come a long way. It has a ton of mods, and we're gonna do a walk around real quick, and I'm gonna show you guys what mods it has. So this car is lowered on KW V3 coilovers. These are the HRE 520s, finished in white gold. We also did the CSL DRLs on this car, the CSL front carbon fiber grills. The ducts came from factory because Max optioned the car out to have that. This carbon fiber front splitter from R44. The rear end is pretty much factory. The trunk spoiler diffuser is all stock, but it does have that Valve Master exhaust as well. Another trendy thing that every G8X owner tries to do is to paint match these side pieces right here. These are actually known to come black from the factory, and a lot of people have found that that actually looks kind of bad. So what G8X owners do is they end up painting the side skirts along with these rear bumper trims. And to be honest, as a whole, it helps bring the car so much more together. Kind of like a weird smooth effect of it just being one whole piece versus it just being broken up with the black. And I think it complements the car extremely well, and it's what makes this car look so aggressive. Aside from it being lowered, obviously, it's the paint match side skirts and those front pieces that just bring it all together. And it's kind of funny, ironically, Max spec'd his car out to have the laser lights, and they have this blue trim piece in them. It kind of works with the velvet blue, if you ask me. It does look pretty sick. He also got the iSweep 2000 brake pads, which are basically super low brake dust. One huge problem with these G80s is that the factory brake pads emit tons of brake dust, like to the point where your wheel doesn't even look like it's the right color anymore. And let me get you guys a quick sound clip of how the Valve Master exhaust sounds. Here's a quick sound clip of the intakes. Moving into the interior, obviously Max really did keep it a little minimal, nothing crazy. He got these I&D seat covers that really help the bolster not get destroyed over time. And of course, like I mentioned, it is a 6-speed manual. He's got a blend mount for his radar detector, which is always nice. You don't want to see wires hanging, especially when you have the iDrive 8. You want to keep it clear of any wires dangling or anything like that. It also has the Rogue Engineering shifter bushings, which helps a lot with slack, and it makes it more direct. So that pretty much sums up all the mods that Max has done to his G80. Now, to circle back to what I was talking about earlier about how much this car was hated when it came out, this car was so hated because of the front end and the grille and all the other things that people disliked about it. It was so hated, in fact, that F80 prices went up, and they stayed up for a pretty long time until, of course, that one thing that we all love came to this chassis: aftermarket support. When BMW released the G82 M3 CSL, it came out with this style grille, and a lot of people were saying that this actually saved the G8X chassis, and this actually helps the front end look so much better. It was still hit or miss for most people, and this has definitely grown on a lot of people now. So this goes to show that aftermarket support has come a long way for these cars. You have Project Gamma front mount intakes, which make the car sound cool, and also since the cones match the color of the car, it's really cool. The grills, of course, and along with the front splitter, just brings the entire front end look of this car. Like, it just takes it to a whole different level, because before the grille was very covered and had a bunch of lines, and it just makes it look just not good. Now, one can definitely argue that the grille is the thing that changed everyone's mind about this car and made people grow to like it even more. But in my opinion, from what I've seen with my own two eyes, the thing that made people change their minds about these cars is lowering them. Now that could be the case for any car. Pretty much any car looks good once it's lowered, or better than it did stock. But this thing looked significantly better once it got lowered, to the point where even with the stock grille, once it's lowered, it does look a lot better. Now I keep talking about everything people hated when these cars first came out, but one thing that everyone agreed on mutually was that the G80 interior was a huge step up from the F80. And aside from that, one thing that everyone loved and everyone wants still to this day when they're speccing out their G80s is the carbon buckets. I mean, look at them, they look gorgeous. These are definitely one of the prettiest seats BMW has ever made, and they have a history of not making the M3 seats all that great. But not only do they look great, they're comfortable, they're lightweight, and you can easily do long road trips in them. Probably one of the best things about the G80 is this thing right here, the S58. It has been out for 4 years now. The platform is still being pushed to ends we never thought it could go to. And the best part of all, it's been out for at least 4 years, and there's been no documented major issue with these engines. Moving into the interior, these seats really aren't that hard to get into. So obviously this car isn't even 3 years old yet, so the interior has all the tech you could ever think of. A lot of people dislike the iDrive 8, and I used to say the same thing until I did a road trip in this car myself from North Carolina to Pennsylvania, and it's always the same complaint. Oh, but there's no peripherals for the climate control. Yeah, that is annoying, I agree. But once you get used to the iDrive 8 and you learn how to use the climate control, it's really not that bad. And then you get to have one of the coolest modern interiors that BMW has to offer right now. And that brings me to my next point. When you think about what's important in a daily driver, there's categories in each car that end up becoming more important than others, such as a car being fast and sporty is really not as important in a daily driver as it is in a weekend car, or say in a daily driver, something like miles per gallon or reliability rank much higher on the list of importance than say something like handling characteristics. But the thing about the G80 that I feel like no one has ever really mentioned is how good this car is at being that. In my opinion, the G80 M3 is probably the greatest daily driver you can buy, and I mean at any price range. If you bring up a car that's significantly cheaper, then you're missing out on a couple things that this car has. And normally in life, it's always give or take. When a car is more sporty or has more power, reliability comes at the cost. It's kind of like a seesaw. With this car, it feels like there is no trade-off. It's fast, it gets good MPGs, it's reliable, it's comfortable yet still sporty. Heck, even the manual is still such a good daily driver because it's so easy to drive. The clutch is soft, the shifter doesn't take an arm workout to get in and out of gear, or you can even offer an automatic option and get all-wheel drive, and even that you can turn on and off. So that practically means this car can do anything and everything, and it does all of it well. Now, obviously there's cars that rank higher in certain categories, like I said, like 10s in certain categories, but then the trade-off is that it's significantly lower in other categories. This car gets like an 8 and up in almost every category, or any category that you can think of thinking about a car. Whether it be styling, interior, quality, speed, performance, whatever it may be, the G80 M3 just does all of it well. So now, 4 years later, we have the G8X platform. It's been pretty much modded to the moon and back thus far, whether it be aesthetically or power-wise. We clearly have seen visually and performance-wise the potential of this platform. I would say from everyone that I know and have met that's hated on this car has either bought one or this car has grown on them. It's almost as though BMW knew what they were doing all along, and we probably jumped the gun and said they dropped the ball, when in reality, everybody wants one of these now, especially with carbon buckets.